DPG is basically a way of, you can actually stretch the fragrance with it. You can also use it as a dilutant. The fragrance is basically, it's too strong and you want to make it a little bit more lighter so the notes can come out and you can actually smell it correctly. Because sometimes if the music is too loud, you can't hear every single word. If you actually can bring the sound down, you can actually hear all the sounds, because sometimes if it's too loud, it's too hard for us to understand.
Okay, so the second question I have is how much of it do you recommend using in the fragrance?
It all depends on what kind of concentration you're looking for to give it to the customer. Like if you're making for an air freshener, you might do a lot more, versus if you're trying to make a perfume, you need to be very careful because you might be using a little bit more perfumer's magic in it. So if you're using Perfumer's Magic, it's going to go ahead and do this like 75% dilution already for you. Let's say, for example, if the fragrance is too strong at a 75%, 25%, percent and if you still feel that, okay, you know what, it's doing too much of the fragrance, then you can probably do like a 50-50 dilution, and then you can probably do the 75% with Perfumer's Magic.
Do I get my scents in a DIY fragrance? How do I get it to linger for a long time?
If you're trying to make your fragrance a silage, or like trying to go ahead and like create a little lingering fragrance to it, you have to understand a couple of things. You can actually do it like using ambroxan. That's like an easy ethyl bracelet, bunch of musks that you can actually use, and you can actually go into it. But like a high-end designer or an artist who actually want to go ahead and create a fragrance, what they normally do is they will actually go ahead and like look at the full triangle of the fragrance. They're going to look at the top notes. They're going to look at the base notes. They're going to look at the middle notes. They can understand the whole fixative behind it. You can't just gonna go ahead and make a fragrance that is just like, hey man, let me go and add some ambroxan to it. I'm good. It's not about just adding an ambroxan. Think of it this way: that if I'm gonna go ahead and make a fragrance, you need to understand the bases. Like, is the base has rose, has some musk, has some sandalwood or some woody scents, and then the middle notes has some other notes that actually complement for the first one. It's basically making two people talk to each other. So let's say, for example, have you ever noticed that two people, when they talk, they always are talking to each other and they just can't stop talking? It's basically that. Two fragrances need to talk to each other for a long period of time. They like each other too much. So they're always talking. So that's what you're smelling. The smelling is basically you're hearing it. That, okay, that's the sound of the fragrance that I really, really enjoy. When you're making your fragrance, make sure that you do like two notes. Like, for example, if I will take like orange and I'm gonna mix it with lavender, like it's two different things, citrus and floral. But at the same time, you're trying to like blend them together. So now when you're gonna blend them, how much citrus you're gonna actually put it in there and how much lavender you're putting it in there. And then when you're doing it, you got to do it drop by drop, like one drop of this, one drop of this, and smell it. Okay, I can smell lavender more, but I don't smell the citrus at all. Let me put more citrus in there. And then you put like 2 drops of citrus, 1 drop of lavender. And then you can still say, oh, lavender is still taking over. Maybe let me put like 10 drops of citrus and 1 drop of lavender. And then you're going to say, oh, now it's talking to each other. I can tell that this is their synergy. This is where they're like connecting. And then you can keep adding one note at a time. I would say that it's more like a synthesia. Like when you're making a fragrance for yourself, it's very important to understand what are you trying to create. So let's talk about this right now for you. Like, tell me, what kind of fragrances do you enjoy? Like, do you like sweet, spicy, citrus, floral? What do you enjoy? Just pick like first 3 things that comes in your mind.
So I like woody scents, I like floral, and I like sweet.
Okay, so
Scents.
woody, floral, and sweet.
Yes.
Okay, so woody will be like woody and floral. You're basically like making a very confident fragrance. You like sweet.
Yes.
You're trying to make a floral, which is a little bit more feminine side.
Yes.
And then you have the woody that actually brings the confidence.
Yes.
So what I would do is I would actually go ahead and like put those 3 scents together. I would put those 3 scents together, and I would take the woody as a base because that's what I see. Floral as your middle notes, and sweet will be your top note. The base will be always heavier, and the middle notes will be actually a little bit lighter than the base. And the top, which is your sweet, will be the lightest. That's how the whole fragrance will work. Now, depending on the notes, citrus, like if you're doing sweets, if the sweet is very, very, very light, you might have, in volume, it might be a little bit more. But it doesn't always has to be. You could actually, like, let's say, for example, if I'm taking sweet like Amber. Okay, sweet amber. And then you actually have middle notes would be like your floral. So let's say rose or jasmine or gardenia. You're making a blend out of that. And then the base notes would be like, like sandalwood, agarwood, maybe a little bit of oud. I don't know if you want to put oud or whatever you would like to put, or maybe patchouli. You're putting it in there. You're trying to create a base, put it all together, trying to say, okay, well, this is how much I want to go and have this in there. Then I would like to put the middle notes right in there like this way. And then I would like to top it off with this. And then you also need to go ahead and make sure you create pillars on the sides, which are fixatives. They hold the fragrance together. Those are very important. They're like mostly like musk. It could be like a little bit of floral too, but you can actually use like, certain type of like lighter scents that actually kind of like hold the whole scent together.
Can I blend my essential oils with fragrance oils to make a perfume?
Follow some guidelines, like that's very important because essential oils are considered irritants. Yes, you can add them, but you have to be very careful how you add them, how you're going to use it. Also, always do a skin patch test. Make sure that, okay, you don't have any allergies or any kind of issues with it. But yes, you can actually add them.
Okay, and another question I have is how does aldehydes work in a fragrance? Because I notice a lot of the big brands, they use aldehydes in their fragrances.
Okay, aldehydes, yes, they do use aldehydes. And that is very true. They are in there. They're used in a very, very small amount. Aldehydes can be a little bit more like I would suggest to use aldehydes in them, you have to understand them a little bit more. They're like more like a dairy sense, like more like edible, fruity. There are some fruity ones too. In order to use them, try to use them as smallest amount possible, like 0.001% or 0.1% to your formula. There are guidelines again, that you have to follow, but use it very little in your formulas. As the smaller percentages, the better, because they're very strong and they're very powerful.
The aldehydes, I guess they can create that lingering effect in a fragrance too.
Just because they create the lingering effect doesn't mean that, you have to, for the aldehydes, you just have to make sure that you're following the guidelines. They're considered like irritants. Many of them actually, they're considered irritants. A company called IFRA, and there's some other European associations that you can actually go ahead and like look into. They actually will tell you that, okay, how much of those products need to be into your formula.
Okay, is there such thing as like fake aldehydes?
If they're not fake, basically they're considered synthetic aldehydes. Basically a molecule that, let's say for example, there's a lavender, natural, 100% natural lavender plant that you actually smell and you like it, you enjoy it a lot. But then again, lavender plant itself has lavandin, linalool, there's other molecules that are like in that one plant. What the extractors do or distillery do, they actually distill that plant, cut it into smaller portions. So basically they will take linalool separate, and then they're going to take the lavandin separate, and then they're going to go and start like dividing all those parts completely. When they turn those individual molecules, then it's considered more like synthetic because they're like not with the same plant anymore. Now, other ways to actually go ahead and do it is like, for example, you could actually have like linalool already, and they will actually like change the whole chemical structure to it. That will be like real, true synthetic formula. Probably make bunch of other ones like, for example, ambroxan. They will actually go and like create it because they actually take bunch of stuff and then they actually change the whole chemical structure. And they will make a whole new formula with it.
Okay, another question I have is can you use water, distilled water in your fragrance?
In your fragrance or in your perfume? So yes, in your perfume, yes. You can use distilled water in your perfume. You will need Perfumer's Magic for that to use. If you're going to use any kind of not street, I would say, like if you use any other kind of solvent that they actually have it, like, there's other names that people actually said, I don't want to go ahead and say any name on here. But if you pick any other solvents, it will not work. Perfumer's Magic does work. You will be able to use between 2 to 5% water and sometimes even more, depending on how you're actually making your fragrance. So you should be able to use it, yes. And the water will actually make the fragrance throw a little bit better, and then the alcohol smell will actually kind of like dims down.
Okay, so it has to be distilled water. It can't be any other type of water.
Okay, why distilled water? Distilled water is very much needed because if you're gonna use any other type of water, there are contaminants. You could actually have like other contaminants that you do not want in your perfume. So you want to make sure that the perfume quality stays the highest. So you want to use water that is distilled. That would be the best.